Welcome to the breakdown here. Most important event of the year. 2014 PSP World Cup is now upon us. Welcome, I'm Matty Marshall, along with Steve Rabikoff and Todd Martinez. So boys, biggest event of the year, hardest test in paintball. So many stories that we've seen so far throughout this season are all going to conclude here at this event. So, you know, before we get into this schedule here and this beautiful event that's going to be going down here at the Fantasia Flight, a little outside Orlando, Florida, to you guys, what do you think are the most captivating stories that we're going to see play out here this weekend? Todd, let's start with you.
Well, I'm going to go with Impact having a rough first event and then just going 3 straight events, making the finals, winning one of them. You know, they're definitely the hot team here on the hot streak, and it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to be able to make it to a 4th straight finals this year. They dominated all throughout Europe, won 3 out of 4 events, and took the Millennium Series title, so they're definitely the hot ticket right now. Dynasty is out, playing in the Challengers division, so I know that that makes a lot of teams a lot happier not having to face them here at the World Cup. And you know, we're in Damage's hometown, so you know, we're going to see if Damage can, you know, who's also been kind of almost on the vents, on the verge, the Iron Man. There's so many good stories. You know, the Iron Man. Sorry, I'm going to list them all right now.
Save some for Rab, Todd. Man, save some for Rab. I want to play too. Yeah, so it is, you know, it's been such a crazy up and down year for a lot of these teams. Rab, other than the ones that Todd just listed off, what are you thinking, man? What are kind of some of the captivating stories out there?
I mean, look, finally our Chaos showed up at the last event. Everyone expected them to come in stomping heads, and
they had a crazy year.
They had a crazy year. They got it going on at the last event. Baltimore Revo, jumping up from Division 1 to Challengers to champions here at World Cup. I mean, they think about what's going through their head right now, so that's pretty amazing. Houston Heat's been started off at the beginning of the year kind of rough, and have been playing the second half of the season in both leagues. Really good coming into this event. So like Todd said, man, there's so many good stories. And here, guys, San Antonio X Factor is the reigning World Cup champions. Until you beat them, they're the champs coming in here. So, and now they're back into the champions division. So I think they're going to be someone to deal with as well. And like we were all going to say, Boston Red Legion, Moscow Red Legion, they got it going on as the last event as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the 10 teams that are in the Champions Division, a lot of them have a chance to win this event. You know, a couple of the teams we didn't, that Todd and Rab didn't mention, like Omaha Vicious. They came in, Todd, the team that Todd coaches, took second at the first event, had to fight through some relegation games, though, and, you know, kind of went on a downslope toward the middle part of the year, but redeemed yourself in those relegation games, sent some tough teams down to the Challengers Division, never had to go down there yourself, which not a lot of the top teams can say. So, you know, Omaha Vicious has got a shot here. Their core is playing incredibly well. We'll continue to break these down as we get through the schedule here, but I really want to see what Vicious has at this event. I want to see what Upton 187 has. Talk about the relegation game executioners. And also, if you go to Paintball Access, you know, check out all of the year in reviews for the 10 teams that are in the Champions Division. You can see their overall records, who they played, and how they fared against those teams. But yeah, really fascinating. And then, like you said, what does Baltimore Revo have in this Champions Division? You know, we've seen some teams, VCK, come up, and teams in the past come up from the Challengers Division, and some of them fared better than others. You know, VCK didn't do so well at the last event, back down in the Challengers Division here for World Cup. But Revo surprised a lot of people. They have, you know, a huge crew on the East Coast, 3 solid teams, one, you know, in the divisional ranks as well, too. And that was a crazy game they played against Infamous to make it in the Champions Division. However, they did get decimated by San Antonio X Factor in that final matchup. So, yeah, man, it's going to be a crazy event. So it's starting Friday morning with a couple games from the Challengers Division. And, you know, we haven't talked about that yet, man. There's 3 of the best teams in the world down in the Challengers Division. Los Angeles Infamous has been stuck in the Challengers Division. This is their 3rd tournament down there now, and they won the first event. Yeah. Also down there, San Diego Dynasty, who had a terrible last event, and so it's really up to the boys in blue, boys from San Diego, to see if they can, you know, fight back here and earn the right to play in the Champions Division for next season. You know, and that remains to be seen. Obviously, you got to give them, you know, the benefit of the doubt on this one. They've never been down in the Challengers Division before, but they have not had a middle to late part of the year. It hasn't been good at all. I mean, they
started out great.
Yeah, when you look at their overall record for the season, they went the first 2 tournaments and only lost 1 game. And it was incredibly impressive. And then they head in to Chicago, won the first two games on Friday, and then Saturday. Since Saturday of Chicago, Dynasty yet to put a win on the board here in the PSP. So, you know, it's going to be tough for them. And then Chicago Aftershock is also down there as well too.
And they're quite angry how they finished out. So, like you said, three teams in there, and again, one of those teams is not going to start next year in the Champions Division. So
and that's just those 3 teams, Todd, because when you look at, there's some other really hungry teams down there that want to prove
VCK's
themselves.
back down there, and they want to get back up. So
yeah, VCK is down there, so we'll see. I mean, Seattle Thunder's got a new roster. Excessive has some new dudes too. We'll see what Red Storm. They actually made it to the semifinals in the Challengers Division a couple events ago. They had a rather bad event the last one though. But starting off in the webcast here, Friday morning, 8:15 Eastern Time is going to be Top Gun Union, Sacramento Excessive, and then Infamous and Chattanooga CEP. What do you guys think about that, Rab?
Well, Trenton Top Gun Union, they have a lot of what I call like guys that just rent for the weekend, and I think it's hard for a team to build on that continually, going through the year. Do you agree with that? Like,
we've practiced Top Gun almost before every single event, and it seems like they got a lot of guys now that just want to press forward. They may not be like the most dynamic players in the world, but there's a lot of aggression in that team right now, and on this type of field, that could really play into their favor.
I was just going to say,
they may not be the most in-depth thinkers out there right now, but they got a lot of dudes that just want to run and smash heads.
They got a great squad. I just see a lot of guys come in and they just don't get that same rotation. But like you said, you've been seeing more about them. So, and then Los Angeles Infamous CEP. I mean, like you said, 3 tournaments in a row. These guys are just going to be disappointed that they're here, and they're going to want to get back in the champions.
Yeah, talk about a hungry team. So before we get into the Champions Division games, let's take a look at the schedule for the weekend here. Going to be popping up on your screen because after that infamous Chattanooga CEP game, here's we get a little eye in the sky view of the massive complex here, Fantasy of Flight. But yeah, we have some amazing games, man. These divisions are pretty tough. The Division 1 has the games you're going to be seeing in the morning. It's Arc Chaos, Heat, San Antonio X Factor, Ironman, and Moscow Red Legion are going to be in that division. And then the afternoon bracket is going to be Impact, Damage, Vicious, 187, and Baltimore Revo. So starting off after the infamous Chattanooga CEP game at 9, it's going to be Moscow Red Legion and San Antonio X Factor. They are going to be the next game up on the field in the Champions, starting the Champions Division. Interesting matchup. Moscow Red Legion, legendary team, been around for a long time, over 10 years, but they just haven't been able to well, it's a rebuild year for them, but when you look at if you go look at their year in review for Moscow Red Legion, they have continued an upward climb. They're one of the only teams that has continued to go up in the standings all season long. They started out, had a really, really bad event in the Challengers Division, finished 19th place, so second to last. But then since then, Moscow Red Legion has been able to slowly but surely work their way up, and they made the semifinals at the last event, the crazy West Coast Open. And if you haven't watched those games and you want to get ready for tomorrow's action, definitely go back and watch some of those crazy games from the West Coast Open. But they've slowly but surely, because with the French mercenaries they have on that team from the Tauntauns, those are solid players, and they got Kirill Peridny and Dennis Golev as well. So those rocks have been holding it down for Moscow, trying to get reps for those younger guys. And the quicker that those younger guys can get their feet underneath them here in the pro leagues, the better that team's going to do. So who knows? I mean, obviously they've been practicing. We'll see. And what do you guys think about Moscow Red Legion matching up against San Antonio X Factor, the defending world champs?
I think it's going to be a good game. We went down and practiced San Antonio X Factor a couple weekends ago, and they put it on us, for a little bit there. They're doing pretty well. And, we played Moscow Red Legion the past 2 events, and, those were both, pretty tough, solid games. Some penalties, kind of made it, rough on us. But I think both those teams are playing good. X Factor practiced Impact last weekend. And, whenever you get a really good, solid practice in right before the event, it always helps you going in there with your confidence and, with your adjustments. So, I think that's going to be a good game to start off the morning.
Yeah, they have not played each other yet so far this year. Also, 2 teams coming up next after that game at 10:30. Art Chaos will be taking on Houston Heat for their first game of the tournament. Those 2 teams have not played each other yet this year as well either. And again, Art Chaos coming off that the win from the last tournament. Houston Heat flirting with relegation again at the last event, and they had to play San Diego Dynasty. See there, Art Chaos on your screen. But, yeah, Houston Heat defeated San Diego Dynasty in a very close match in the relegation game. One of the most nerve-wracking matches that those teams have ever played. Sam Monville, this is how crazy the relegation games are. Sam Monville was interviewed after that game. Lauren Kelly asked him, how nervous were you before this game? Give me a straight answer. And he's like, look, I played in multiple World Cups finals. I played it for wins. That was the scariest game I've ever had to play. That's how crazy it is for these top teams. But they were able to reign triumphant in that match, so they preserved their spot in the Champions Division. Again, up and down year for Houston Heat as well. It took second in Chicago. But this is a field, we haven't really talked too much about this field out. This is a an awesome bloodbath, trench warfare field, particularly on the snake side.
Yeah, this field will play well for them because it's not your typical just get out, post up. This field, you got to keep changing it up, Todd, and you can come down the snake side and then keep pushing the snake side, then you can come down the Dorito side, and then every now and then you could test that middle a little bit. So this field, I think, is going to play well for Houston Heat.
Yeah, Todd, you know, you've been obviously practicing with Vicious, getting ready for this event. How strong is that snake?
Oh, the snake's really strong. You know, it's such a, you know, kind of a thick, you know, small gap snake side of the field, you know. So, you know, a lot of these spots are going to be makeable. It's really going to be about, as always, winning gunfights, you know, once you get into those spots, you know. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's about average height, you know, not a lot of tall bunkers on that side, just that tall can right to the side of the A, and then that tall can right in the middle. But everything else is like, you know, a standard height bunker. You know, you got a lot of, you know, pins, Aztecs, tall cakes, you know, but those corners are very makeable, and, you know, both corners have tall Aztecs in them, you know, big giant fortresses if you can get there to stand up and wheel and deal. You know, you want to get your good gunfighters into those spots, your fast, good gunfighters into those spots right away and try and control that wire, and then, you know, keep feeding your little guys down the snake. You know, talking about Houston Heat, we saw, you know, when Heat did really well this year, they had Chad George and Ryan Moorhead playing over on the snake side. Yep. They also picked up Thomas Taylor in the offseason. They got a lot of snake guys.
Well, that was going to be a question I wanted to ask you guys. With all of the different options that Houston Heat has to play the snake, you know, obviously they're playing against Art Chaos, and Art Chaos has, you know, the star 4 Russian players, and then a bunch of younger and other experienced Russian guys, but, you know, the 4 core members are probably going to get the majority of the reps, as well they should if they want to try to put another win on the board. Right. But that battle in the snake's going to get crazy. But I noticed in Europe that Moorhead was playing the snake again for Houston Heat, and he played so well over here. You know, Moorhead came up as a D-side player, but I'm wondering, are they going to put Moorhead as the one in the snake again? What do you think?
I think I would go again with that combination of Chad and Ryan, because the way that they had success in Chicago was
Chicago, and then they just
Chicago was that either guy could go. You know, they could both get out to the spot, and if they're both in spots that they can launch from, then either guy can go depending on what the scenario is on the other side of the field. And then, you know, we haven't seen Thomas Taylor a lot this year. But if there's one thing that Thomas Taylor knows, it's a ladder snake.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how he got paintball famous.
Yes,
Thomas Taylor got paintball famous by playing snakes just like this and playing them extremely well, being very aggressive. I feel that this layout is going to come down to, mastery on this layout is going to come down to aggression, taking the good spots.
Surviving the Doritos.
Surviving, but I think it's, again, gunfight, aggression, smart aggression, but then coupled with winning gunfights. I mean, obviously it's paintball. Gunfights are crucially important regardless of the field layout. But you know how it is in ladder snake. Sometimes it's just you versus the guy in front of you. Your back player puts the other guy out, and now you're in a gunfight battle. Or your back players die, and those stand-up temples on the corners over here on the snake side, that's a gunfighter's paradise right there.
Yeah.
Your head up against your mirror and lined up with the ladder snake.
When this layout came out and I saw the snake, I'm like, oh man, hunter be hunted in this one. This one is like a snake player's dream. If a guy's not afraid to play the snake here, he's going to do damage in here.
And then I want to follow that up with situational awareness once the chaos hits, because that D side, man, the smarter players on the D side, the guys that are experienced, the guys that have played layouts like this before, are going to prevail when all the craziness starts to hit the fan, and they look up and bodies start coming off from that snake side. The players are going to be able to play in those crazy moments and execute and maintain their composure are going to be the teams that win.
Well, here's the thing about gunfighting. You know, we always say, oh, you got to win gunfights. Well, of course you got to win gunfights. You know, but on a field like this, especially, when you break out and you say 3 guys are both coming to the snake side, if 3 guys get out and 3 guys get out on both sides, obviously it's going to come down to who shoots who first. But on a field like this, you can be down bodies and the other team can have the good field position. But if you can be down bodies and win a quick gunfight, then you have so much more area to go, you know, so much more space that you can take to get down the field and start getting kills across the field, that, you know, 1 or 2 little gunfights is going to be the difference, because it happens so fast on this type of field.
You say that. I've been watching some of the divisional games today here, Division 1, and that's exactly how it played out. It looked like a team was like, you know, in trouble, and then, like you said, they won a couple gunfights, and boom, they turned it right around just like that.
Well, I think that's a good point, Rat, because though there is no back centers, you just saw the eye and sky view of the field. No back center back there, but there are some big bunkers in the back on each side, the D side and the snake side of the field. And kind of going what both of you guys said, I do definitely think that this is one of those, you know, chaotic fields where, yes, it's a relatively simple field in the sense, hey, ladder snake, you got to win that battle over there. Keep your eyes about you when the chaos is happening. But I think we're going to see potentially see some teams come back on this field layout and also interpoint too. Not necessarily come back as far as the point spread, which we see obviously every event depending on who really wants it more and who's executing. But I think we're going to see it interpoint here. Low body situations, I think you could potentially pull out from here.
And what we always talk about, who's going to be the least penalized?
Yeah, you always bring it up, like and rightfully so, though.
And that's because you guys practice weekend after weekend after weekend. You come out here and boom, you get a major at the first point, and that just changes, takes the air out of everything. And you're like, oh man, we got to figure this out quick. So stay out of the penalty box. If you're going to get them, make them minors. And I think that's the team that's going to win this is the team that gets the least amount of penalties come Sunday.
Well, and also, Todd, you coaching guys through a team that actually has been pretty highly penalized this year. Mental composure in those situations so important. And I just want to note before I kind of throw this question your way is that at this event last year, San Antonio X Factor, who had some issues with penalties, hey, penalties happen, they come, it's part of the game. But they had took a little bit of advice from Dynasty's coach Rusty Glaze and looking at penalties as an opportunity to switch the momentum. If you get a penalty and go, even if it's a major, so you got your guy in the box for 2 minutes, he's going to stay there the entire 2 minutes. You have 4 bodies against 5. Those 5 are going to be pretty excited right now. They're on the power play. They have your guy in the box for 2 minutes thinking, okay, we're going to win this point. If you can win that point and get that guy out of the box, it's a huge momentum shifter. And so, how important is that mental tenacity and that focus when the penalties are starting to rack up and the points are starting to not go your way? How important is to stay focused over there in the pits?
Yeah, I mean, you have to have that. You have to have guys that like the pressure on them, that want to get out there in those 4-on-5s and continue to fight. Whether it's just enough to burn that clock off and get your guy out, or to go out there and try and win those points by shooting guys on the break and then making some quick moves. But I mean, anytime you can beat a team 4-on-5, that really takes the wind out their sails, because then they see the game start to go. It's like, do I need to push the buzzer? Let or keep them in, let my guys fight. And it's like, all right, they got a penalty, but we're going to keep it going. It's like, it's always a tough thing when you're that 5 and you're losing, and your coach has to make those decisions. So, I mean, it's always a huge pick-me-up, for that team. But better off just to not put yourself in that situation anyway.
Yeah, but it's going to happen, man. I mean, we've seen it time and time again.
Make them small.
Make it small and make them as little as possible. Yeah. They are going to come. Just minimize it as much as you possibly can. All right, so let's move on here in the schedule a little bit. 11:15, Ironman are taking on San Antonio X Factor. Those two teams have not played each other yet this year. Ironman, they have also had a pretty strong year. Young team, Royalty, San Jose Royalty got absorbed by the Los Angeles Ironmen. It took some time for the Ironmen. They had a huge roster, 12 guys on that roster, and it took them some time to kind of figure out where everyone was going to play together. Also, they have Alex Goldman, Mouse. He is back from a leg injury that he was suffering through at the West Coast Open. He's back at 100%. And so, I really think that the Ironmen have a shot here now. Marcelo Margot has been playing phenomenal all year. He's behind Archie Montemayor in the Top Gun race. Archie Montemayor's got a pretty big lead on him in that race, but you never know what's going to happen. But Margot and Goldman play these fields really well, and I really like the young guys on that team. Brandon Cornell's a baller. Chris Catt, the dynamic duo on the D side for them. I think the Ironmen got a shot. Another team hasn't played in a relegation game, and they've done pretty consistently mid-level boss, but every team that plays Ironman, they're going to be facing the best Ironman team that they've seen all year here at this event. And San Antonio X Factor, they've had the same core lineup. This is essentially the exact same team, plus Mikhail Kovar, who came back from playing with the Russians for a season, that won the World Cup last year. Yep. So and they're hungry, man. You talk to those X Factor guys, they're angry that they were down in the Challengers division and put themselves in that position, but now they're back and hungry, and they're going to be out for blood. So I think that will be an awesome matchup. Then Moscow Red Legion plays Houston Heat. Those two teams have played each other already 3 times here this year. Houston Heat 2-1 over Moscow Red Legion. What do you guys think about those two matchups?
Houston Heat, Red Legion, again, like we were saying, those teams are going to come at each other hard, and the Russians have, with the Tauntaun guys, they can come down that snake side pretty heavy. So I think with Moorhead and Chad George, possibly Sam Monville, I think we're going to see a bloodbath on the snake side with those guys. So I think that bracket is just going to be nasty.
Yeah, it is a nasty bracket. You're seeing some of the highlights here from there's Thomas Taylor, who we were talking about earlier. Yeah, Houston Heat's another one of those teams I think that has a chance. Honestly, all these teams definitely have a chance. Revo, it's going to be a tough road for them. This is what they asked for. We'll get to them in just a second. But when you really look at all these teams, I mean, even 187, who's going to be playing in the afternoon bracket, we'll get to that here. But let's hold off on that. The next game after Moscow Red Legion and Houston Heat is Art Chaos and the Ironmen. I think that is going to be a pretty crazy matchup because those two teams have both played each other so far this year twice, going 1-1 against them. So, you know, that's a tough one to call. Art Chaos, though, having that terrible start to the year at Mid-Atlantic Open. Well, they had actually had a pretty good start. And, you know, in case you're just kind of learning about Art Chaos, they came into this league highly touted, looking like they were going to win events, but they definitely proved that at the last event, the West Coast Open. But they played in the Challenger Division, murdered everybody down there, went into the Champions Division, got killed, lost every single game at the Mid-Atlantic Open. Then heading into Chicago, decimated, you know, they got knocked down to the Challenger Division in Chicago. They, you know, again, stomped people down in the Challengers Division, came back up and won the Champions Division. So, you know, what Art Chaos team are we going to see? But I really, you know, talk about guys that could play this layout well. I really feel that that Art Chaos, this is a tailor-made field for them, man. I really think that they're definitely going to do a really good job on this field because Fedorov loves these style of layouts.
Yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about with Art Chaos is last event. Yeah, their 4 guys played really well, but those 4 guys were playing really well going to 2 stand-ups, you know, right off the break. You know, those guys are incredible on their feet. And what they didn't have was a really solid snake presence. Is Lukashuk going to step up this event? Are they going to get somebody else to switch spots and go over to the snake side? You know, like maybe Axel, we had talked about before.
Which he didn't play much at the last event. So, like, they had their 5, and I think he played a few points in the prelims, and they went with that core 5, and that was it.
Well, okay, and we've had this conversation all year long, and I think we all agree you have to spin Fedorov, Sergey, Malloy, and Mishka as much as they possibly can go. But who is that 5th guy? I think that's still a running question. You know, Todd, break down kind of who you've. I mean, they got Zakharov, they have Lukashuk. Axel, like we were just talking about, I don't think they've been playing Axel enough. It's tough, and on this layout, I think Axel could do really well.
Yeah, I mean, we know Axel knows how to play the snake because we watched him do it all year with Moscow Red Legion. We know that Lukashuk can play really well, but he was just so hit and miss, you know, pretty much all season. You know, even in MAO, I remember watching him coming out to the snake side, and it was a really tough snake side, but I mean, it was just like you need somebody if you're going to win in this league. You know, you need somebody that can consistently get into the snake and get kills for you. You know, and it's like
especially on a layout like this.
You know, a lot of those games they'd lose Lukashuk and Fedorov would bump over to the snake, and then Fedorov would end up going down the snake and killing everybody. You know, so who knows? You know, are they going to play Fedorov in the snake? Because with Art Chaos, they'll put Fedorov in the snake. Then the next point he'll go to the Dorito side. He'll go to the snake. You know, he'll be all over the place. But you know, if they're going to win out here, everybody is World Cup. Everybody's hungry. Everybody's got their best guys running consistently. You know, I don't think it's going to be as easy to just have those 4 guys
because
put
there's
the
a
team
lot
on
of
their
running
back.
You got to run to those corners.
Yeah. Also, it's Florida. It's going to be hot. Like we were talking about. But so, yeah. Well, that's again one of the questions to be answered. So, who is going to be that other guy to step up? Who are the coaches going to let have that chance? We'll find out tomorrow. And then, you know, heading into the afternoon bracket, 187 takes on Baltimore Revo, welcoming them to the league. Now, that first day, 187 plays Revo, and then they play Vicious. Huge day for them. You know, again, Revo and Vicious are 2 really tough teams. But the thing with 187 is the next day they have to play Impact and Damage. So it's only going to get harder for them the second day. Also, traditionally, 187 gets off to a slow start. They know that now, and they're actively going to be trying to fight against that. So that's going to be an interesting day for them. And then Tampa Bay Damage plays Vicious to start it off. And Todd, you guys have 187 and you have Damage. How do you feel about that first day?
Really excited to get Damage first game. You know, we played Damage in MAO. And we were leading most of that game, ended up tying. You know, that's the event where
5-5. It's 5-5 tied. Because you guys are 0-1 and 1 against Damage this year.
Yeah, and then the last event, you know, we were up a couple points on Damage with, you know, about 5 or 6 minutes to go. And then got a major penalty, threw it away. Actually lost a couple silly gun battles, then got a major penalty and ended up having to go at the end. But, you know, a game that I felt that we were in control of and then threw away. But, I mean, it's always fun to coach against Skinny Kevin. You know, I like how he runs game plans. You know, a lot of respect for the Damage guys, you know, for all that they've done over the years. So it's always a fun game. I like getting a good game right to start. You know, we got last event we got to welcome VCK to the Champions Division. 187 gets the pleasure of welcoming Revo this time. But I like playing a solid team right off the get. Say, hey, we're here. Let's go.
Well, that first day is so tempo setting. You definitely don't want to get that slow start. And Vicious is another team that's got off to a rather slow start at some events. I think you're 2-5-1 in the first 2 games of Friday throughout the year. And I know you guys know that too. So, I think that is going to be, some really tough matches in the afternoon bracket. Impact plays Revo after the Damage Vicious game. Then you guys play 187. And then the last game of the day is Edmonton Impact and Tampa Bay Damage.
Which those guys have been just having battles all year. And it's a trend. Last year, Damage pretty much dominated Impact during the season. And Impact is having their way with Damage. But you play a team that many times, eventually they can catch up and get you.
Well, and what Rap's talking about essentially is that this year, Damage has played Impact every single event and lost to them every single event. They're 0-4 against Edmonton Impact, who's had this crazy storybook year and would love to cap it off one of the best years ever that any team has had. If they can win the World Cup this year, that would be a pretty amazing feat, especially with how that team reformed in the offseason. That's a great story. And then day 2, man, I love watching Saturday's comp. Friday is great. Who showed up? Everyone starts trying to set the tempo. You're going to see some great games on Friday, but Saturday is such a bloodbath. That starts off with Houston Heat, San Antonio X Factor, followed by Moscow Red Legion, Ironman, then Art Chaos, and X Factor at 9:45, and then Ironman Heat. I mean, this morning bracket is going to be super fun to watch on Saturday to find out, who's going to be moving on. And that story on Saturday, as the day progresses, you can see there on your screen the schedule. As that day progresses, the anticipation builds, because we're going to find out who's going to be playing in relegation games, who has the shot to win World Cup, who's moving on to the finals, and those stories start to get pretty crazy as the intensity ratchets up through Saturday's competition.
I'm looking at the schedule, man. This is just like, man, I can't wait to see these games.
Yeah, it's the way it's been all year, though. I think this has been, one of the best years, for paintball in a while, just with the level of competitiveness, the high level of skill across the board with all the teams and the players. At the beginning of the season, it was going to, we're talking about how interesting it was going to be with, all like the big roster overhauls that had happened. And, I think it's actually worked out rather well, for, the excitement of, these games, these matchups, these brackets. So many, every event this year, we've looked at the brackets and gone, wow, this division is going to be awesome. We've seen some really quality games. So I'm excited to be here. We're going to win it.
You
gotta be confident, man. You guys,
I like when you win, because when you come back up here, you're happy Todd. We like happy Todd, so keep winning.
Happy Todd is fun Todd. Yes, fun, yeah. I like fun Todd. Yeah, so I mean, Vicious definitely has a chance. I mean, you have to say the favorites of this event absolutely have got to be Art Chaos, because they won the last one. Impact for sure. Damage has been very close throughout the year. The Ironmen have been middle of the road, but consistently getting better. But X Factor won it last year. Yep. Vicious took second at the first event. I mean, there's literally a good 6-8 teams that have a really good chance of winning it. And then on the outside, like, who knows? Revel could come up and make one of the craziest paintball stories ever. If Revel comes out, smashes everybody, and or even just wins games, because they were very intense at that last event, and they looked like a team with something to prove. And I love seeing out of these young teams. I mean, the future is very, very bright for Baltimore if they can keep that group together.
It's great for other teams to see a team that came out, they got out of Division I, moved up to Challengers, and made it. It shows these teams that you can do it. It's just hard work.
What are the Vegas odds on Revo winning this event?
I don't know.
Let's find out.
I don't know. It's tough to tell. I mean, obviously, it's a hard, long uphill climb for them. They've never been at this level of competition. They were playing D1 at the start of the year. They didn't even come into the Champions Division, into the Challengers Division until 2 events in, when Texas Storm had to bow out. And they came in and played 2 events down there and finally made it up. So if they can even make it pretty far in this tournament, it'll be a ridiculous story. And then again, all those crazy stories down in the Challengers Division. Dynasty having to fight against Top Gun Union, Chattanooga CEP, the Infamous, and then they also play Sacramento Excessive. Also, Dynasty plays Infamous in their last game of the prelims as well too. So, and then Infamous, they have to play Excessive. Essentially the same teams that Dynasty has to play, because they're in the same division. So, that's going to be an interesting thing too. And then also always on Sunday, who's going to make it from the divisional ranks? I mean, there's, over 350 teams here. And so the best of those divisions 4 through 1 are going to be playing out here. One of the best, your son, Brandon Rabikoff, and DC Devastation. Is that a team that you think could go into the Challengers Division next year? I mean, they've been consistently making their way up the ranks. They've done very well.
They're playing Division I the way we expected them to play. I mean, they did get a win this year, but it's those little things that you got to keep doing, and they're not passing the test on the little things the last couple of tournaments. So can they move up? I think teams can move up, but you need to just it's harder practice.
Well, I mean, look what Revo did.
Yeah, look, DC Devastation beat Revo at MAO, and Revo moved up, and look what they've done. So it can be done. They just got to continue to work hard and stop the mistakes. And you got AC Dallas, who's leading.
I was just going to say, AC Dallas.
They're leading coming in, and they're trying to get into the challengers. You got Carolina Collision, TMG Outlaws. So there's a lot of teams fighting for those 2 spots, two or three. But for sure, they could do it. But it takes the little things, man. You gotta finish those games off and not make these bonehead run-throughs. And
well, we'll see. Big test again. Every tournament's a test. The whole reason you play paintball, other than to have an amazing adventure and a fun time, is to test yourself. And that's what World Cup is, man. It's one gigantic test. Also, if you haven't had a chance to sign up for your fantasy team, there still is a little bit of time to do that. You're playing for a DM15, so that's a really nice gun that you have a chance to win. It's free to enter. Go to the quick picks, or you can set up your own league. But yeah, man, for sure, definitely want a chance to win that. Again, free to enter, have a chance to win an awesome gun, and play against the entire world to see, did you pick the best team? And last year, the coach of San Antonio X Factor picked all San Antonio X Factor players and ended up winning. Which Ryan Brand, that's such an amazing story in and of itself.
I wonder who he's going to pick this year for
Probably
his team.
do the same thing, man. Probably do the same thing. So, yeah, and then also, it's just like any fantasy. You get to follow along. But that's the cool thing about World Cup. There's so much going on here, man. 9 different levels of competition, huge trade show, all the new products for 2015 from all of the sponsors, and it's going to be an awesome weekend, man. I really can't wait to get things rolling here. So before we sign off, want to get your favorites to win the event. Other than Vicious, Todd, who's going to be in the finals with you guys? I know you're going to pick Vicious if I say who's going to win. Who do you think's going to make it to the finals?
I want to see Impact in the finals. Why not? Got to take number one,
so
right?
You're taking the risky pick, right?
Got to take number 1 down to get him. I'll get X Factor too.
All right.
I'll take X Factor. I wouldn't mind just throwing right from him, like just hand it on over.
Maybe do to them what they did to Impact last year, in the finals. I mean, San Antonio X Factor had a come from behind victory. Again, that game's online too if you want to go check out our YouTube channel. That was a crazy matchup. Some guys had some really big games in that one. That was awesome.
So who's your final 4?
Final 2 is going to be Vicious versus X Factor or Impact.
Who you got?
I got my final 4 is Vicious, Impact, Art Chaos, and X Factor.
I think Art Chaos is going to get in there. I think the Ironman got a shot, and I think Heat's got an outside shot too, man. I really think that Heat's going to step up here.
100%.
Yeah, I think Heat's got a shot too. But again, I mean, Chaos, Impact, Damage, those are the favorites for sure. But we've seen a lot of upsets this year and a lot of crazy things that have happened. So thank you guys for tuning in to the Breakout, man. 2014 PSP World Cup is just about to get underway. Can't wait to watch it. Thank you guys, man, for supporting us, man. And please spread the word. Paintball is such a fascinating, charismatic activity, and lots of crazy stories are going to play out this weekend. So, across all your social networks, let everybody know that the best players in the world are throwing down at the hardest tournament in the world here before we get into the off season. So thank you guys for tuning in, man. It's about to go down at Matty Marshall with Steve Rabikoff and Tom Martinez. We will see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning.
Yeah. on, sucker! Bye, sucker! Night, night!